What happens when you mix Clerks, Silent Night, Deadly Night with just a little dash of Chopping Mall? You get Christmas Bloody Christmas. Released in 2022, Christmas Bloody Christmas is a moderately low-budget Shudder original slasher film that perfectly satisfies the weirdos like me that see Christmas as a great opportunity to festively feast on the flesh. That's just a really weird way of me saying I love Christmas horror movies. If you like camp, awesome practical effects, a killer as vicious as Art the Clown, all wrapped up in beautiful cinematography and a cavalcade of enough fucks to make Rob Zombie have a heart attack, then I think Christmas Bloody Christmas might just satisfy your little sick mind. The basic premise is that there's this new mechanical Santa that is essentially designed to replace mall Santas, but the really weird thing is that the CPU inside of this thing is old military technology that occasionally goes a little haywire, so sometimes, rather than Santa asking your kids what they want for Christmas, he'll brutally murder the entire family with an axe. Like that one. It's Christmas Eve, and we're following a small group of shop workers who are closing up for the night, getting ready to go home, and just enjoy their holiday. We primarily follow two people who work in a record store, and then we briefly follow their friends who work over in a toy store. These are some of the most grunge and punk motherfuckers you are going to see in a Christmas movie, and to be quite honest, some of my favorite characters I've seen in a movie in a little while now. I mentioned in the beginning that this movie is kind of like an amalgamation of a few other films, and one of them, surprisingly enough, is Clerks. Not just because we're following characters who work in a shop, but because the dialogue between these people is so entertaining to listen to. They're so quick back and forth. There's not a single hesitation between anything anybody says. There's always some new addition to the conversation, and it's really a lot of fun to listen to, even though it's sprinkled with just fuck after fuck. To get through dialogue this quick and to get through it this clean, you really do need to have some good actors, and I'll tell you, I really liked the actors in this movie. In fact, I liked the actors and the characters so much that my least favorite part of the movie was when it turned into a slasher film. I thought the first 45 minutes of this movie was amazing. Genuinely, I was having a great time watching it. It's about halfway through that the Killer Santa really gets going. Yeah, there's a couple kills towards the beginning of the movie, but really the meat of this happens in the second half. And it's also right about that time that I started to kind of pull back a bit and lost a little bit of interest. Now, I will say, the movie never completely lost me. I was never bored, I was never disliking it, but it wasn't nearly as strong. And I think a big part of that is because I enjoyed the human aspect of the actors in the beginning of the movie, that when the lifeless robot starts killing, there wasn't a connection to really get behind. This is where I think a lot of people may differ from me. Personally, I don't find killer robots to be all that intimidating. Probably the most iconic version of a legitimately scary killer robot would be the Terminator. But if you really think about it, was the Terminator scary, or was the ramifications of him succeeding in his mission scary? I think the idea that him successfully killing Sarah Connor would ultimately lead to the success of Skynet is far more intimidating than Metal Man attacking Girl. This movie kind of validates my thoughts on that, because there's no reason for this robot to have come to life. There's no reason for this robot to be doing what it's doing. They kind of mention it on TV in the background that there is this military tech inside of it that is causing the robot to go a little bit haywire, or a bit haywire. But they don't really focus on that. The crux of the movie is just about our lead girl trying to survive, and then all of the bodies that rack up along the way. And that's fine, and it's fun, but because it's a robot, there's not even any mystery. It's just a killer robot. Chopping Mall. I have to imagine that the cast and crew was very excited to say that they made a Killer Santa robot movie, and while that is really fun on paper, I do think that it ultimately hurt the movie because you don't have a compelling villain. With the knowledge that there is no compelling villain in there, you really just have to sit there and enjoy what you're seeing on screen, and I will tell you, it's pretty fun what's happening. The practical effects, while not realistic, are a lot of fun, and I will tell you this, I will take a cheesy, unconvincing practical gore effect over a well-made CGI effect. Because I think when you look at products of the 70s and 80s where we were getting a lot of these prosthetics and practical blood, these movies hold up a lot better than slasher films from the early 2000s, which were implementing a lot more VFX. Practical is timeless, even when it's not perfect. If you're just going into the movie for the practical effects and the slasher and the kills and all that, then I think you're going to have a great time with this one. I really enjoyed it, although I definitely enjoyed the first half of the movie a lot more. It did peter out a bit for me, but it never lost me. And I don't want to undersell this movie by saying that it did have flaws. It did, but they did not ruin the movie. And I don't think the flaws are going to affect a lot of you the same way they did me. I like a bit more of a compelling villain in my films, but I think if you're going into Christmas Bloody Christmas, you probably have a pretty good idea of what you're looking to get out of it. And this movie, for the most part, delivers. It is a genuinely fun Christmas slasher movie, and since it's a relatively new one, a lot of you may not have heard of this. I think it flew under the radar for a lot of people, myself included. I picked up the Blu-ray towards the end of last year and just didn't get around to watching it until this year, and I'm happy that I did, because it's worth it, and it's probably going to make it into my Christmas rotation, if not every year, at least every couple of years. If you're kind of on the fence with this one, and maybe I'm not conveying the quality of the movie very well, I'll tell you this. If you like Terrifier, there's a good chance you're going to enjoy this. While it's not as shocking or as gross as Terrifier, it is definitely in the same bloodline. It's similar, but not the same. Well, that's it. Not the most in-depth review, but let's face it, it's a killer robot Santa. It's fun. I recommend you check it out. Go check it out for yourself. I also want to try to keep these videos short this month because I do want to try to get a handful of them out. I don't know how many, but I definitely want to do better than I did in October. I did nothing in November. I want to focus on a lot of Christmas horror movies, so I'm going to try to keep these short and sweet so that I can get a handful of these out to you over the next few weeks.